So here I have one wonbok and I let it dry for about 1 week, and now I'm gonna clean it up. So I'm going to slice it thinly so it's easier to be put into the fermentation jar. Although traditionally in China, people use a really big fermentation jar they put in the yard, and during the winter they will just put the whole wonbok in it. And I don't have that at home, so I just decided to slice them up and put in a smaller fermentation jar, so it's easier to make in a small batch. Ta-da! I have sliced them into smaller pieces, and the next step will be adding salt. So the principle here is adding about 2% of the cabbage weight of salt. That's the sweet spot for making suancai as well as sauerkraut. They are made actually from the similar process, just different spices sometimes. So you just sprinkle the salt evenly on the cabbage. And what you need to do next is use your hand. Make sure you wash it before doing it to massage and sort of bruise the Chinese cabbage to make sure all the liquid comes out. And the volume of it will shrink down about 2/3. Yeah, and it will be better fit into the fermentation jar. It will probably take 2 to 3 minutes for such a small batch. So after 2 to 3 minutes, as you can see, all the juices have come out and the volume shrink down 1/3. And here I have 2 cloves of garlic. I mince it, and I want to add it to give it a little bit more fragrant flavor. I love garlic a lot, and what I will do is just keep massaging for about 1 to 2 minutes, and it's ready to go into the jar. So I have already transferred all the cabbages into the fermentation jar, as you can see, and what I'm doing here is using a rolling pin to smash it down even more. So the principle of making suancai is to let it ferment in its own brine, in its own juice. So you also don't want to waste the juice left in the bowl. You pour them all in to make sure it covers all the cabbages, so it doesn't spoil in 2 to 3 weeks time, and the fermentation could go completed. As you can still see that there is still smaller pieces floating at the surface. We do not want that. We want everything goes under the water. So what I'm going to do next is to use a clean foam to cover the surface and put a clean water bag to press all the cabbages down to make sure they emerge into the brine. Alright, so basically the preparation of suancai fermentation is done. And then now what I need to do is just patiently wait for about 2 to 3 weeks, and hopefully it's ready to eat by then. However, in addition to that, I'm going to also do some pH test during the fermentation. So to do that, I made some red cabbage juice myself. It's really easy to make. You just boil the red cabbage in hot water for about 5 to 10 minutes and preserve the water, and it can be used as a pH indicator. So to show it how the red cabbage juice will change color in different pH environment, I'm going to show you 3 sample tests. So this one is lemon juice, which has pH about 2.4, so it's quite acidic, and I'm going to add this in. Yeah, and as you can see, it becomes like cranberry juice, and it's pinkish and still got a little bit purple in it, but yeah, the color still changed differently. So here I got some bicarbonate solution, which is basic. Alright, so the color turns to blue. Okay, it's kind of beautiful though. And here I got some just plain water, so it's neutral pH. and nothing changed except the purple gets a little bit plain. And so here I got some cabbage juice. I just preserve a little bit when I was making the 酸菜. So this will be day 0. So the start point of the 酸菜 fermentation. And yeah, it's quite easy to tell. So it's similar to the plain water one. So at day 0, sorry, the cabbage juice has a pH probably close to neutral. And I will test the pH once a day for next week until the color remains the same. I mean, I expect to be closer to the lemon juice one since it's lactic acid bacterial fermentation according to the studies. Yeah, but we will see. If everything goes well, it should be the pinkish color. For the first few days, the color remains purple, but since day 5, it started to turn pinkish and becomes more and more pink throughout the whole fermentation until the end. It has been 3 weeks of fermentation. My hair has grown a little bit as well. And as you can see, both batches of 酸菜 are done. However, one of them is successful, another one not very good. I didn't do this on purpose, because I opened the lid of this one too often to do the pH test, and it got contaminated during the process. And as you can probably see, there is some greenish mold floating at the surface of the brine, and this is the most common indicators of a bad 酸菜 according to my research. However, sometimes people got freaked out because they see some wet spots growing at the surface. Actually, that is fine if you only discover the wet spot, because it is due to the growth of carm yeast. You basically just scrape it off, and the 酸菜 is safe to keep in the jar. Just make sure during the process you didn't get contaminated with other things. One of the indicators of the quality of 酸菜 is actually the color. So during the fermentation, especially 酸菜 fermentation, lactic acid bacteria fermentation is dominant, and it will not change the color of the 酸菜. I mean, not much. Especially there's no discoloration. So just compare these two, that especially at the upper part of this jar, you can see clearly the discoloration of the 酸菜. It means that this is a really bad one. However, this one looks amazing. You can see the fresh color all the way through, and the light yellowish color, it's beautiful. It's got the symbolic color of 酸菜. So this one is quite good just by looking at it. The second indicator is the flavor. So a lot of experienced 酸菜 maker, they can just judge a 酸菜's quality by a sniff. So you can smell the amazing, the delicious, appetizing flavor even with the lid on it. This is because during the fermentation, a lot of volatile flavor compounds are produced, and that actually what makes people attracted to fermented vegetable, attracted to 酸菜. So now I'm going to talk about the pH of the 酸菜 fermentation. First of all, I'm going to refer to myself since I recorded the color change of the red cabbage juice along the way. And the red cabbage juice is the pH indicator, as I mentioned. And this one is the fresh sample I just took from the final product of 酸菜, and it definitely without doubt looks like acidic. And actually the solution remains pink since day 5. And according to my research, during the mid-fermentation stage, the lactic acid bacterial fermentation or other acid-forming bacterial fermentation becomes more and more dominant. So the solution eventually become more and more acidic. And finally, it becomes too acidic for the bacteria to ferment. The fermentation will stop. And this is what happened during the 21 day of fermentation of suancai. And since this looks quite appetizing, I might try a little bit of this one tonight to make a suancai stew, which is quite classic in Chinese cuisine. Yeah, just to celebrate the 21-day experiment of myself. So basically that's it. I hope you enjoy my little vlog of making suancai, and thanks for watching.